Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back in another video from Mother's Basement. Today we are checking out. I watched every Hollywood anime adaptation, which is going to be interesting. I haven't watched a lot of the Hollywood anime adaptations. I've seen Dragon Ball Evolution, wasn't great. I wanted to see Alita. I heard good things about that, but there's so mixed stuff about. But yeah, let's see what Mother's Basement has to say about it, shall we? And check out my Etsy shop in the description and check out my Patreon down below as well. $1 a month gets your name at the end of every video.
Hollywood and anime. Two great tastes. One great taste and one okay one that tastes awful together.
Ugh.
Western adaptations have a terrible
Oh, Evolution was
reputation
so
within the anime
bad.
community, and it's hard to blame us.
Like, it's one of those, it was just bad. Even if you weren't a fan of Dragon Ball, it's just a terrible movie.
Given how badly we've been burned before. But
Whoa.
how bad are those burns, really? Which ones are the worst, and are any of these movies actually worthwhile? That's what I set out to find out by watching and ranking every Hollywood thing based on an anime or manga with an anime adaptation.
Right.
Which does mean I won't be ranking Edge of Tomorrow
Why?
or Old Boy
Interesting, because I like that and like that.
as neither of those manga has ever been animated, but if I did include them, Edge of Tomorrow would definitely be in the top 3, and Old Brolin would almost certainly be bottom 5.
Oh, I mean, no, Edge of Tomorrow was class, but oh, of course, I was thinking the original version. Yeah, the the American adaptation was terrible for Old Boy. They tried to trick you with the trailer and be like, "Ooh, it has to be a different ending," but then it's just the same, and it was just awful. But yeah, Edge of Tomorrow was boss, and I've read the manga for that. Sick. All right, okay.
On the other hand,
Sorry.
I will be ranking 2 anime movies filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the technicality that it's also called Hollywood North. Because I'll take any excuse to talk up my hometown. They're both pretty darn interesting, and one is even kinda sorta official anime canon. I'll be ranking these
Whoa.
movies and show from best to worst, because while it's generally better to save the best for last, let's be real, you're not here for positivity.
No, we are
You
not.
want to see the things that
I want
burn
to see
you
what's
get
terrible.
roasted back, and don't you worry, that is coming. But first, we've got to get through the actually good ones. Starting with one of the absolute best movies of any kind I've ever seen in my entire life.
This is good.
Speed Racer.
This is good. This is actually good. It looks so bad, but all right.
It should be no surprise that the Wachowski sisters would be good at adapting anime, considering the movie that made them a household name was pitched by showing a bunch of film execs a Ghost in the Shell DVD and saying, "We want to do that for real."
Oh, because I thought it was based off Akira, but never mind.
They reinvented action filmmaking as we know it to deliver on that vision, and then, with Speed Racer, they did it again, only even harder.
So it's good.
So hard, in fact, that most anime-illiterate film critics of the era didn't know what to make of it, mistook their visionary, surrealist filmmaking and intentionally cartoony shot compositions and effects for low-grade Shark Boy and Lava Girl shit, and dismissed the whole thing out of hand accordingly, which led audiences of the time to do the same, turned the film into a box office bomb, and ultimately helped to cement the all anime movies bad meme in popular consciousness. A misconception I myself suffered under for many years until an also thoroughly underwatched Patrick Willems video convinced me to give Speed Racer a second shot, and I realized it's almost perfect on every level.
Wow. All right. Okay. I'm intrigued. Do you know what? Brain didn't even click to this at all because I just completely had nothing to do with this whatsoever when it came out.
Including ones that aren't even theoretically possible. The main comic relief duo is a kid and a monkey in 2008,
Whoa.
and they're actually super funny. In fact, they're one of the best parts of the whole thing. Well, I should say part of the best part of the whole thing. That is to say, the entire Racer family, who have one of the most wholesome, heartwarming relationship dynamics I've ever seen on screen. I mean, Any movie family with John Goodman in it
I think Mario right now, but okay.
is guaranteed to be adorable, unless he's evil John Goodman.
Oh god, and he does such a good job in that, but anyway.
We don't pigeonhole acting legends in this basement. And indeed, his performance as Pops is the beating heart of the film, but Susan Sarandon is just as great as Mom. Emile Hirsch's Speed radiates shonen protag energy like nobody else in Hollywood, and Christina Ricci's Trixie is a perfect partner for him while really holding her own as an action badass.
Cool.
And the action in this movie is nothing short
Wow,
of
looks
badass.
good. All right.
Every race is more intense than the last. Every single scene, practically every shot, will show you a spectacle the likes of which you've never witnessed
this
in
is
live
cool.
action. There's so much variety, too. Car chases, breakneck races through life-size loop-de-loop and Hot Wheels circuits, cross-country death rallies, all with enough gadgets to make Bond blush. There's even a kung fu fight against some ninja assassins. This movie just doesn't let up on the gas.
All right, cool.
When you start digging into the groundbreaking techniques it took to film it all, it only gets more impressive. But that's a topic for its own video essay. If you only take one thing away from this video, though,
Watch Speed Racer.
please let it be that you need to watch Speed Racer.
Right, okay. I will take that on board. Alright.
Especially if you love stuff like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World,
Yeah.
because this movie is like
Alright,
that turned up
cool.
to 11. That
Sick.
said, if you'd prefer something with a more concrete sense of
What's
realism,
this?
the second best Hollywood anime thing of all time,
Alita.
Battle Angel Alita,
Oh,
has
so I am going to check this out, mate.
covered. And I've already covered it in depth,
Oh.
so I won't take up too
alright.
much of your time rehashing that review. But if you haven't seen it yet, this film is widely seen as the one that finally
So this is good as
delivered
well?
on
Alright,
what
sick,
every
cool.
high-profile anime movie to that point had promised and welched on. Combining effects
Yo.
technology pioneered for Avatar, the James Cameron one, not we'll get to it, with
Right.
Robert Rodriguez's prodigious mind for cinematic violence, Alita immerses you in a dystopian world straight out of the original manga, and delivers cyborg on cyborg action that feels comparably intense too,
I've read the first volume of Alita, and yeah, it was class.
and aesthetically consistent with the 90s straight-to-video anime, while still doing its own thing. I wouldn't quite call it peak fiction like Speed Racer. The film has a lot of strong character interactions, but basically none of them happen in its tortured romantic subplot, and the ending leaves a lot open, with half the setting, the floating city of Zalem that rules over the Iron City junkyard where we spend the movie, left almost entirely unexplored. But with Cameron and
cool.
Rodriguez having made a quote-unquote blood oath to do a sequel, that last
Nice.
point can become a positive, since they've already established where that sequel can go. Personally, I'm a hell of a lot more invested in seeing more of this world than, say, Pandora, and I don't think I'm alone in that. This is the movie that made a lot of anime fans believe anime movies could actually be good. Though
Cool. And it does look great. Everything I've seen from this, like I've seen clips and that, looks boss. Looks absolutely sick.
to be fair, that is due in large part to a lot of us having missed Speed Racer, not to mention third place, Crying Freeman. A 1995 three-way co-production between Canada, Japan, and France that adapts the classic Kazuo Koike manga of the same name
Crying
in
Freeman.
impressively faithful fashion. With one key exception.
Right.
The original manga/OVA story of a brainwashed Chinese triad assassin fighting the Yakuza while falling in love with a hot witness he's supposed to kill was set mostly, naturally, in Japan.
Japan, yeah,
The
right,
film,
okay.
however, turns it into a globe-trotting affair that still ends in Tokyo and Hokkaido, but starts in Vancouver, where the whole thing
Right.
was shot. So instead of being
Oh, okay, makes
constricted
sense.
to the nondescript rainforests and could be anywhere city streets seen in every other movie made there, Crying Freeman can actually play around with iconic Vancouver landmarks like YVR, our beautiful modern courthouse, and the old courthouse turned art gallery, which here plays City Hall. That makes this film a rare treat for me personally, as a son of the city that never plays itself. Someone ought to tell Tony from Every Frame of Painting. And it becomes a completely different kind of treat when the film does move to a Tokyo Yakuza mansion with very obviously Haida Gui-style etched glass walls.
Wow, it does
But
look
don't
cool.
think that hometown bias is
It's nice when they pay attention to details, like, yeah.
what made me rank this movie so high. It's just the cherry on top of a beautifully shot by award-winning
Damn,
cinematographer
yeah, like, everything looks
Tom Burton
awesome.
and edited by Hardboiled's David Wu thriller Cake, where a lot of the frames, particularly in the action scenes, are undeniably painterly. With clever, distinctly anime-feeling martial arts choreography shot slow and steady from angles that actually let you see every movement, it
Nice.
stands in
Unlike the Michael Bay's first Transformers movie, where the Transformers were just so close up you couldn't see anything that was going on. Just bring it out, show the action.
stark contrast to the shaky, up-close, every punch-a-cut action seen in pretty much every live-action anime thing from here on down the list. Especially impressive considering Crying Freeman's budget was just $12 million adjusted for inflation,
Right.
less than a third of what Dragon Ball Evolution cost to film.
Jesus Christ, what?
It's not without its flaws. The story, like that of the original manga, is built on some pretty darn shaky logic, and aside from Mark Dacascos, whose powerful presence as the titular assassin is felt in every scene, the principal actors can't quite carry the emotional side of it. But in conjunction with the cheaper, grainy film stock, copious use of slow-mo, and a somber score by Frank Zappa collaborator Patrick O'Hearn, the languid performances create a dreamlike mid-90s vibe that's aged shockingly well, like a Hong Kong action flick filmed in Twin Peaks. It's definitely more than the sum of its parts, and the last thing on here that I can wholeheartedly recommend to pretty much anyone without any reservations. Though, with the reservation that you shouldn't go in expecting the complex mind.
Oh no, don't do this. I enjoyed the Death Note Netflix movie. I liked it. I thought it was... Right, I didn't think it was great. I thought it was good. It wasn't amazing, but... Oh, okay.
Games of the original, I do still heartily recommend Death Note
Oh.
to anyone with an open
Wow,
mind.
okay.
This is definitely going to be the most controversial
Oh, I thought it... Okay,
ranking on
cool.
this list, as Netflix Death Note was widely reviled on release for its
Yeah.
many deviations from the source material, and I'm genuinely sorry to anyone who felt burned by it and was hoping to hear me roasted. But you know who didn't hate Adam Wingard's take on Death Note? The creators of Death Note. After a private pre-release
All right.
screening, Tsugumi Oba said the film exceeded his expectations,
Wow. Alright. Cool.
stating in no uncertain terms, quote, "This is what a Hollywood Death Note movie should be."
Oh my god. Like, I liked it. And as soon as it said there was a sequel, I was excited. So I hope that it's still on the way.
Personally, I was engrossed with the ending. In a good way, it both followed and diverged from the original work, unquote.
Yeah, like, I liked that I wasn't watching the same goddamn thing again. Like, it would have been cool. Would have been nice. But I liked that I was watching a Death Note movie where I didn't know where it was going. Know what I mean?
Takeshi Obata was even more enthusiastic
Cool.
in his praise, calling it a magnificent A-level thriller masterpiece and citing the imagery and direction as beautiful and thrilling, respectively. Adjectives which
Cool.
the artist who drew Death Note definitely knows a thing or two about.
Yeah.
He even drew a piece of fan art for the
Whoa.
film. Western fans dismissed those comments out of hand in the run-up to Death Note's release, theorizing the creators must be angling for more royalties,
Willem Dafoe as Ryuk was sick as well.
which isn't how film rights work, or under some obligation to Netflix, which Shinichiro Watanabe's recent Bebop comments prove doesn't exist. The far more likely explanation is they actually meant what they said. Because while Death Note definitely isn't a movie for everyone, it is evocatively shot by, fun fact, the same cinematographer as Speed Racer, with
Oh.
fun, characterful performances across the board. Especially Willem Dafoe's
Yeah,
Ryuk
oh, he's
and
so good.
Lakeith Stanfield's L. And it has a fascinating, though very different take on the manga's core ideas. Instead of a brilliant Japanese honor student taking his elitism way too far, this film's Light Turner is a dweeby middle-class American loser who, given a taste of power and egged on by his sexy sociopath classmate, appoints himself judge, jury, and executioner over the people ruining society, petty criminals and guys who bully him personally. In other words, he's your typical domestic terrorist, just with a death note. And the relatively lax response the US authorities have to his actions as Kira, with his cop dad poised to accept what he did by the end, makes for some pointed commentary on that subject that's only gotten more relevant with time.
Especially with L as well, like, is he gonna use it? Is he not? I need to know. I want a part 2, man.
Again, it's clearly not a movie for everyone, and as I said in my ancient review, it has some serious pacing issues that I think really hold it back from being as great as it could be. But it is very much a love it or hate it sort of movie that I think a lot more people, even Death Note fans, might come to love if they can put their preconceptions aside and watch it on its own terms. If nothing else, it's clearly the work of a passionate artist with something to say, and I'm always gonna prefer that to cookie-cutter corporate Hollywood slop.
Yeah, like, a lot of heart went into that film, man. I stick with what I said. I enjoyed it.
On that note, Astro Boy, the lone
Oh, okay.
animated film on this list, is a typical cookie-cutter cartoon adventure film from the late 2000s, blandly performed by a highly marketable list of big-name Hollywood not voice actors, which is especially disappointing when it comes to Dr. Tenma. A genius roboticist driven mad by the death of his son, and then even madder by his inability to perfectly recreate that son in super fighting robot form, played by Nicolas motherfucking Cage, should not be anywhere near this boring.
I'm aware I said I'd take you to that symposium on quantum mechanics, but I'm afraid I have to take a rain check again.
But Dad...
Do as you're told. I, don't want you anymore.
That said, Tetsuan Atom was always a fairly straightforward story for kids, so making it into a formulaic cartoon adventure film isn't that far out of step with the source material. The action scenes are generally well executed too, even if they can be a bit, OMG, I have machine guns in my butt?
Yeah, wow.
To be fair,
That's
most
mad.
of the film's comedy is at least stronger than that, and I think its lightly Americanized 3D take on Osamu Tezuka's iconic style holds up better than pretty much any non-Pixar 3D animated film from 2009.
I did not know that Nicolas Cage was in this movie, but he's in everything, isn't he, so...
Speaking of Pixar, Astro Boy drew quite a few comparisons to Wall-E back in the day for its overtly environmentalist messaging, but in retrospect, its setting of a floating city run on robot slave labor hanging over a poverty-stricken junkyard settlement was almost certainly borrowed from Battle Angel Alita, which is kind of a weird choice, but also kind of a fun one that reflects the fact that Alita, along with basically any manga with a robot protagonist, was directly inspired by Astro Boy.
Wow.
What I don't like so much, even if I generally agree with the underlying message, is the film's preachy approach to explicitly leftist politics. It's not all bad.
I don't understand politics whatsoever. I don't understand when people say left and right. I don't understand that at all. I'm just so oblivious, but I'm also kind of happy with that.
Robot Revolutionary Front, a group of inept anti-capitalist androids desperately searching for a comrade not beholden to the laws of robotics so they can do better praxis than tickling the oppressor, are the film's comedic highlight. And I think Osamu Tezuka, who was briefly a literally card-carrying commie himself, probably would have enjoyed that. But the political themes of his work were considerably more nuanced and subtle than what we see here, with the evil mayor of Metrocity literally saying out loud in front of everyone, "Oh no, my approval ratings are dropping. I hope starting a war will fix that."
Wow.
It's just way too on the nose. I mean, The central MacGuffins of the film are these two oppositely charged energy cores. A good, wholesome, sugar and rainbows blue one that
Right.
powers Astro, and an evil, unstable, violent red one that fuels the film's big bad warmongering end boss. They absolutely beat you over the head with this shit, and considering the film arrived dozens of drone strikes into Obama's first term, that shit was woefully outdated even back then. Speaking of dated, explicitly political stuff, G-Saviour is one of the oddest oddities in the Mobile Suit Gundam canon, and boy,
It's
that's saying
Gundam.
a lot.
It's weird. I was about to say, oh, what about Cash-In? But that was a Japanese live-action adaptation, so never mind.
This 1999 Japanese-Canadian co-production actually was Universal Century canon for a while, though it's long since been wiped from the official timeline, and in an odd choice, it doesn't actually use the word Gundam once. Still,
They
the
look
plot
cool.
about a ragtag group of scientists trying to avert a system-wide famine in defiance of a reorganized yet still obscenely corrupt Earth government military that wants to use the threat of starvation to bring the colonies
Ooh, is Street Fighter going to be on this list? Is Street Fighter on this? Because, you know, it was an anime. I know it's a video game, but...
is back under control feels, thematically at least, right at home in Gundam's world. Said evil government, ironically and contrivedly acronymed Consent, is opposed by a secret society calling itself the Illuminati, which has secretly been developing its own super robots
My
under
God.
the G-Saviour program.
Whoa,
Very
so
Gundam stuff.
Gundam,
The
right.
MacGuffin at the core of the story is a genetically engineered bioluminescent enzyme that produces UV light, allowing for underwater farming, which is exactly the kind of fiddly sci-fi lore I come to Gundam for. There's even a bit where a dude inadvertently makes a war way worse by failing to keep it in his pants in front of his girlfriend. That's as Gundam as plot points get.
Hell
Tonally,
yeah.
though, the writing could use quite a lot of work. The script is peppered with eye-rolling Hollywood one-liners and awkward expository dialogue that detract from its overall efforts to create a concrete sense of time and place within the greater UC continuity. And that's not really helped by the TV to FMV tier delivery of its C to D list cast. Taken in conjunction with the Derry-esque manner in
Wow,
which the
that's
CGI
not
has
great,
aged and
but
all
yeah.
the generic industrial sets, that does lend the film a certain cheesy sci-fi original charm, but it's not hard to see why most franchise fans consider this a black sheep in spite of everything it gets right. Still, it has had a more enduring legacy than your average black sheep. The first PS2 Gundam game ever made was a direct sequel to G-Saviour, also titled G-Saviour, just to be confusing,
Wow, okay.
that expands substantially on the conflict started here. And it has fully English voice acting, so if you do get invested in this story, there is quite a bit more of it out there for you to enjoy. The G-Saviour Gundam itself also made a brief cameo appearance in Build Fighters, and its design,
Wow,
if nothing
alright.
else, is generally held in quite high regard by Gunpla enthusiasts. At any rate, there
Okay.
have been far less faithful efforts to bring iconic Sunrise anime into the real world. Netflix's Cowboy Bebop has almost
Oh, God, right. With this one, I gave it one episode. I usually give things a chance, but it was long and it was horrible. And I remember when my ex was living me here, I watched it and I said, right, I know you don't know Cowboy Bebop. I know you've not seen it before. I mean, I have. And I was like, just watch this opening sequence. And she literally just laughed the whole time. I was like, yeah, it's that bad, isn't it? She's like, yeah, that is terrible.
the opposite problem of G-Saviour. Great acting and sets, if you can ignore everything else. As I said in my painfully honest review, John Cho, Daniela Pineda, and especially Mustafa Shakir absolutely embody Spike, Faye, and Jet.
They do a good job with the
and
characters.
the only problem with Eden Perkins' performance as real-life Ed is that Ed in real life is just inherently way too much. With that cast and a brand new OST by Yoko Kanno in hand, not to mention some really solid costume and set design, all the show really needed to be a genuinely great Bebop adaptation.
Actually, no,
was
I got halfway through the second episode, so I gave it an episode and a half. Because they were long episodes because it's Netflix.
stronger direction, better action, and an almost entirely different script. I say almost because when it goes purely episodic and ignores the overarching plot, I mean, it's still not Bebop, but it kind of feels like it could be a sanitized, in-universe sitcom about the Bebop crew. A fair number of folks who've never seen the original anime ended up really enjoying the remake. Not enough to stop Netflix from Netflixing it, mind you, but enough that it actually has a positive audience score on Rotten Tomatoes now.
Oh.
And seriously, more power to the people who enjoy it. I hope you guys get to keep enjoying the Cowflix NetBop extended universe through comics and novels and whatnot. I just can't ever be one of you. Cowboy Bebop simply holds too special a place in my heart. And when I see what this version did to Spike by way of what it does to Vicious and Julia, or the way it pisses all over the original's coolest imagery and ideas, I can't help but feel a simmering, unquenchable resentment toward it. Still, enough of the series is enjoyable and clearly made with passion for the source material that I can't bring myself to fully hate it.
Yeah, like they did try. Like I got that. Like I said, I've watched an episode and a half. They did. I did get the idea that they were really trying to go for that vibe, but it just came across as really, like, instead of being cool and like wow, it was just cheesy. It came across as really, really cheesy, and I didn't like it.
Either. Though we are almost out of things I can say that about. Guyver Dark Hero is the 1994 sequel.
Oh, shit. I remember watching this as a kid. Doesn't, the guy that played Luke Skywalker. Oh, I forget his name. But he's in this, isn't he? Or is this...
First anime movie ever made in America. The Guyver.
The
which
Guyver.
we'll get to once I'm out of positive things to say. Back then, Guyver wasn't even thought of as an anime movie, really. Just another entry in that brief pre-Burton Batman run of obscure low-budget comic book adaptations, which also included Crying Freeman. So the studio didn't think much of trading out the writer and lead actor to
just
take
Power
a
Rangers,
second,
isn't it?
higher quality chance at capitalizing on the brand name and the then nascent English tokusatsu craze kickstarted
Costume's
by
so
Power
good.
Rangers the previous year.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
good decision all around, I'd say, as a young
Very
David
Power
Hayter
Rangers
in
influence,
his
yeah.
first major film role brings a lot of much-needed range and depth to the character of Sean Barker, an ordinary dude who becomes an unwilling superhero after fusing with an alien power suit. And the story,
The anime
penned
is
by
great for
Warhammer
this.
author Nathan Long, which picks up a year after the original film as Sean is struggling with alien visions and an increasing compulsion to kill fed into his mind by said supersuit, is a lot more interesting and nuanced than the 5 total things that happened in the original. It's also apparently a lot more faithful to the original manga and anime, but I'll have to take the fans' word for that.
Oh, no, the
Thankfully,
anime's
all
great.
you need to know to dive into this sequel is that the hero defeated an evil corporation full of mutant monsters called the Zoonoids, and then his life got progressively worse from there, which is all established quite efficiently in the
It's
first
dark.
few minutes, capping off with his girlfriend dumping him. From there, Sean's off to an archaeological dig in the mountains of Utah, chasing rumors of a werewolf that attacked a local hunter, clearly a zoonoid that got away, as well as some cave paintings that bear an eerie resemblance to what he's been seeing in his visions.
way.
The closer he gets, the more he feels something calling him to the caves, but obviously he's not the only transforming alien guy searching
Obviously.
for it. On the subject of transformations, the movie's strongest point by far is definitely its tokusatsu quality creature effects.
Yeah,
Produced
they are
by
good.
a team of mostly Japanese effects artists,
I think I watched this
led
movie
by Steve
once
Wang, who would
years
go
ago.
on to do a Kamen Rider.
Rented it from
Several
the
of the
library.
rubber suits on display here feel truly alive, with expressive animatronic features and fun alien physiology. And the movie does
Really
an even
good.
better job of making them feel dead, with copious campy
So
gore
much
effects,
blood,
lending
yeah.
the fights a sense
Jesus.
of weight and brutality that the prequel was seriously lacking. The fight choreography is also generally improved here, in that there actually is some this time,
Yeah,
making
right.
use of wire fu effects to create what feels like a much wetter R-rated Power Rangers. Though the impact is thrown off somewhat by some genuinely baffling sound design choices, like how every punch thrown by this rhino guy is punctuated by a yowling cat for some reason.
Oh wow,
My
yeah, it
biggest
does sound like a
complaint
cat.
about Guyver,
Wow.
Dark Hero is that it desperately needs a better editor. It runs a full half hour longer than the first entry, but almost all of that
Excuse me.
could have been shaved off by someone who knows you don't have to show a guy driving all the way down a road for a full minute for the audience to understand
Where
how
they're
we got
going
to the
and what
next
they're doing.
scene.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
action does mostly benefit from more coverage and longer takes, but the pacing of the story really suffers, which is a shame because its underlying ideas are quite interesting. It absolutely kills me that I can't say the same of 2017's.
No, don't you dare. Oh, forgot about this as well. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really good film. I thought this was a really, really good film. I'm a huge fan of the Ghost in the Shell franchise. I have everything that exists in Ghost in the Shell that you can buy on DVD, downstairs. Watched it all, love it. And I watched this and I was like, this is great. They've told like a different story but referenced the original movie. They've taken bits from Arise with the costume design at points. They've mixed and matched everything and then made their own story with it. And then I cried my eyes out at the reveal. But all right, go on.
ScarJo in the Shell, which takes one of the most groundbreaking, philosophically poignant, and intellectually stimulating science fiction anime movies ever made and strips it down to a dumb as rocks action vehicle with nothing of value to say.
What? God, no. What? No. 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 I am sorry. Everything else he said about everything else, cool. Oh no. It was great.
Using an absurdly bloated effects budget to recreate, sometimes shot for shot, some of the most iconic animated action scenes in cinema history,
Yeah.
but robbing them in the process of all their meaning and impact. This movie is all shell and no ghost. I do think if I didn't have such reverence for the original Ghost in the Shell, I might be more forgiving of this remake.
No, like I love. Ghost in the Shell's so freaking sick. Like I love the adaptations of Ghost in the Shell so much that like I actually enjoyed the Netflix version where the animation was awful, but felt the story was still quite well done, and I appreciate they were still trying to fit it in with the standalone complex continuation as well. Like, oh no, this was a good film.
Is a passably mindless
It wasn't amazing, but it was good.
action blockbuster with admittedly breathtaking production values and strong, if often wrong for the character performances, but considering how monumentally influential the original is, not just on anime, but Hollywood movies specifically, I can't bring myself to excuse it on those grounds. There's simply no good reason to watch this movie while the original exists.
No, there is. It's good. Oh no.
Unless you have even less respect for animation than the countless dorks who made every pre-pandemic Disney remake a 9-figure smash hit. Because that's exactly what Gits 2017 is.
Mate, no, like I'm usually like, and this is something everyone always says about me. I'm a nod and agree reactor. I am not agree. When someone says something that I just really disagree with, I'm gonna say, I thought this movie was great as a fan of Ghost in the Shell and all the other spin-offs. So like Ghost in the Shell, Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence was not good. Right, it was nice to see a continuation from the original movie, but Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence was not good. Standalone complex, awesome. I've even watched Individual 11 and The Laughing Man. They were great as like cramping them up. Then we had the so a standalone complex, and then it was there was only like 4 parts, but it was, and then we had the Netflix one. Right, love them all. I really enjoyed this film because I liked that it was taking aspects of all the other things before it and not just trying to copy the original movie. Made them all fit. Oh, I thought it was a great film.
A soulless, celebrity-studded carbon copy of an objectively better work of art whose only real selling point is you get to look at real meat people doing the things instead of fake paint ones.
No, because the reveal at the end of with what they did with the story was emotional. I cried my eyes out. I remember mentioning my friend Lauren and being like, and she was like, "Yeah, I cried as well." I was like, "Ah."
Hell, it even changes up a major plot element solely to make a contrived preemptive excuse for its problematic elements, which ultimately only ends up backfiring and making those elements worse. Though, in this case, they weren't perceived issues with the original, but rather with the remake's own questionable casting choices. I really hate how that line makes a perfect transition to 1991's The Guyver, starring Jack Armstrong, but they put Mark Hamill's face on them.
Right, Mark Hamill, that's the guy. Right, okay, different film, but still same. Right.
Box. Like its sequel, Hollywood's first ever anime adaptation makes use of some seriously impressive, fully practical tokusatsu-style suits and effects to bring its mutant monsters to life and create some genuinely effective body horror by the time
Yeah, it was
wrapped.
weird because like Mark Hamill wasn't the main character, but they put him on the DVD because Star Wars.
Unfortunately, the one of those creatures that mutates out of a black guy
I say DVD, the VHS box set.
is a Jar Jar blinged up rap gremlin that makes the jive talking gold toothed robot from Transformers 2 look culturally sensitive. And even more unfortunately, that's one of the better performances.
Damn,
in the
all
movie.
those
Just about
chains.
everyone else plays their role like a walking mannequin. Particularly Armstrong, who reacts to both accidentally becoming an alien superhero and later thinking he accidentally murdered his girlfriend with the same level of emotion as discovering his bike is stalled. Hamill's worn-out CIA agent barely has to try to be the best acted character in every last scene, which is good because he barely does. His
Right.
campy, hard-smoking, hard-boiled cop routine is fun to be sure, but it's hardly his best work. Fortunately, the film's two lead villains are strong enough to carry everyone but Mark. Reanimator's David Gale absolutely gobbles up the scenery as Fulton Bacchus, the maniacal psychic CEO of the Kronos Corporation, in one of the last roles of his legendary career, while the always enjoyable Michael Berryman plays his literally rock-headed right-hand thug, Lisker. Every second that either one of them's on screen ups the entertainment factor of the film tenfold, and they keep it ironically enjoyable enough to pull you through its extremely bare-bones plot. It really is just a skeleton of a story, though. A scientist steals an alien super MacGuffin from an evil corporation and then gets killed by them. His daughter's boyfriend finds where he stashed it randomly and learns how to use it on accident when he gets mugged by gangbangers with nunchucks. The bad guys show
Yeah, I like these films, but I was very young. Like, I'm talking very young when I watched these, so I cannot remember how these worked out. But I remember really enjoying the Guyver live action movies, and then it was realizing, whoa, this was an anime originally. Was really cool, and then I really enjoyed the Guyver anime.
up to kidnap said daughter.
Proper gruesome, man. Especially when, like, you know, they rip out the cores and stuff, and it's like, oh, and the screaming and that. Ah.
And find what she knows. The boyfriend tries to stop them in a big, dumb, overlong warehouse fight and ultimately dies. The big bad CEO drags the daughter down to his secret lab for an exposition dump. Then it turns out the Super MacGuffin makes the boyfriend immortal, so he gets better by Jaws-themed xenomorphing his way out of a guy and kicks everyone's asses. The end. And in case you
Power
were
Ranger
hoping the
style.
ass-kicking at least would be fun to watch, I have bad news. Unlike the sequel, basically every fight in this movie boils down to either A, a series of punch sound effects followed by a guy flying from off screen, B, Guyver stabbing or cutting something with his elbow knives, or C, laughably clumsy rubber-suited grappling. Those rubber suits, though, are worth watching the
They do
film
look
for
good.
practically by themselves.
They look
with the
awesome.
Guyver armor in particular being a seriously impressive piece of
Like,
kit.
Jesus Christ. Imagine going, like, when was this made? When was this made? If you go to Comic-Con dressed up like that, people would be jealous now. just wearing that. Jesus Christ.
That even shoots steam out of its face vents. The Zoalord, a massive half-spider, half-dinosaur monstrosity that David Gale transforms into at the end of the film, is another effects highlight, but he's only on screen for a couple minutes before the Guyver blasts him into nothing
with his chest.
beams. Still,
Guyver
if you're a fan of good practical effects and all kinds of bad acting and writing, there is some solid ironic fun to be had here. I wish I could say the same for Fist of the North Star, but
no, I did not know there was a live-action Fist of the North Star. Here we go. Let's go.
Easily the most excruciatingly boring thing I had to slog through for this video. Aside from a couple decent practical effects at the beginning that showcase the raw, destructive power of Kenshiro's feet and fists, the film's fights are utterly devoid of impact, with the camera cutting to a different awkward close-up on almost literally every hit. It's impossible to believe for even a second that these are real people really fighting for real stakes in a real world, and the fake world the film creates instead is just painfully generic. Take out the Terabad cosplayer with 7 condoms glued to his chest. No, seriously, that's how they did the Big Dipper stars. And you'd be hard-pressed to find a single discernible element that sets it apart from the previous decade and a half of Road Warrior ripoffs, let alone anything that identifies it as a Hokuto no Ken adaptation. And that's in spite of the actual plot being relatively faithful in adapting the source material. You know, relative to most of the things we're talking about today. I like exactly one thing in this movie, which is how it sets up the "you're already dead" move right at the start, uses it to explain why Chris Penn is wearing random Mad Max leather face straps, and then pays it off by having Ken's fiancée Julia rip them off in the climax, causing his head to finally explode years after the fact. Unfortunately, she has to do that to stop him from doing the thing that lazy dogshit writers love almost doing to their female leads all the time, which seriously taints the only interesting action beat in this 100-minute action movie. I guess it's also cool seeing a young Dante Bosco play Bat, bridging the gap between the Rufio and Zuko eras.
Oh, sick! Yeah, I thought he looked
really
like Rufio.
Doesn't utilize it all that well, and it reframes his relationship with Lynn, who has her blindness rather than muteness cured by Ken in this version, as a brother and sister type deal, as opposed to eventual lovers. So that probably would have gotten weird if the movie was anywhere near good enough to get sequels. I guess it's a good thing it wasn't. I feel like I should have more to say, but I'm honestly struggling to come up with anything. Fist of the North Star's biggest sin is simply how utterly forgettable it is. Though, I guess that's still...
I never heard of this, so wow.
...better than movies that permanently scarred their own fan base. Yes, finally, we have reached the bottom.
Here we go. This was awful. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm totally on board with this being so down the list.
Bottom of the barrel.
I went to the cinema to see this. Hated it. Ugh.
And one of the hardest choices I've ever had to make as a YouTuber. We have 2 films left to rank, and if you've been keeping score and know my stance on what does and doesn't count as anime, you know exactly what they are. M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender and James Wong's Dragon Ball Evolution. 2 movies whose sheer awfulness permanently altered the trajectory of their respective franchises, and...
I've not seen The Last Airbender, but I've heard really bad things. Evolution is just goddamn awful.
Their directors' careers, with M. Night eventually going back from blockbusters to low-budget horror films, and Wong going from low-budget horror back to television. These are undeniably the worst anime adaptations Hollywood has ever squirted out. Not just bad, not just boring, not just letdowns compared to their source material, but actively insulting to anyone who's ever cared about the original stories or films as an art form. Evolution was so bad, it offended Akira Toriyama out of retirement.
Yeah, he came back. He's like, this is not going to be the last thing that I am remembered for. Forget that.
While Avatar swept the 2010 Razzie Awards, winning Worst Movie, Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, Worst Effects, and, as a cherry on top, Worst Supporting Actor for Jackson Rathbone's
Whoa.
butchery of Best Boy Sokka. But
No.
which one is truly the worst of the worst? It's Airbender, and sorry, I lied for dramatic effect, it's not even close. For all its flaws, Dragon Ball Evolution is
Makes me want to watch it now so I can see how crap it is, because Evolution's one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life.
at least ridiculous enough to make for an entertaining hate watch, and even manages to be funny on purpose a couple times. To find out exactly how many, you can go watch my extended roast. The
Great.
Last
Absolutely
Airbender,
great.
despite having nearly the same runtime, feels about 5 times longer than Evolution, thanks to its oops-all exposition dialogue and universally joyless acting. And it manages to have just as bad, if not worse, effects and fight choreography on 5 times the budget. And
Damn, so it had more money than Evolution. And it's still... Oh, what are they doing, man? Right, I'm hoping in the future I don't even know. I don't know. Whatever.
Sorry. Ong is...
I'm really hoping the One Piece live action's gonna be good. It's so scary to think of, isn't it? But, please. And isn't there meant to be a Avatar live action series as well coming out as well? Time will tell.
supposed to fight with farts. As stupid as what Evolution does to the Kamehameha is,
Yeah.
the interpretive dance atrocities that pass for
I mean, bring someone back to life with it. What?
bending moves in this movie are on a whole different stratosphere of awful. And the way the script contorts itself to condense 20 episodes of story into 100 minutes of screen time leaves it exponentially less coherent than a movie that gives Son Goku a high school bully and makes him spend several minutes fighting lava monsters in a volcano, kinda just because.
Yeah, the lava monsters were very weird.
Also, Appa somehow looks even creepier and worse than the Ozaru redesign that Evolution's effect team had to jam into the film at literally the last minute in response to online backlash. The Last Airbender is a failure of filmmaking on every conceivable level. I'd go so far as
I mean, for M. Night Shyamalan as well, he was such a high-regarded director. Ugh.
to call it literally unwatchable, and you've seen this channel. You know the kind of shit I can sit through. Now that I say it, the experience of watching this movie opening night as a hardcore Avatar fan is probably why I can do that. While I walked out of the
Yeah, because I watched Dragon Ball Evolution like the first week it came out, like within the first days it came out. So I didn't watch it like first day, but I was very much like me and me, Zach, were like, we're gonna watch this, and we got the tickets and then went around the shops and that, and then, it was not a good day.
that theater at least 20% more jaded than I was when I walked in, and I was expecting it to be bad. The core memory
What was that again? That's okay.
of that disappointment has rendered me immune to the terribleness of anything X-Arm tier or above. I can bitterly laugh off what
Christ, X-Arm's abysmal.
passes for CGI in that show, the vomit-inducing animation of handshakers, even the colossal disappointments that were Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer and The Promised Neverland Season 404. But watch
Yeah, like the what never existed of Promised Neverland after part season 1.
watching even the trailer for The Last Airbender makes me viscerally angry in ways words can't fully convey. I'm pretty sure I could put every single piece of media I've ever
Excuse me.
heard, watched, read, or played on a list, and The Last Airbender would still be at the bottom. Forget Hollywood anime adaptations, it's the worst adaptation of anything, of any kind, ever. To quote Roger Ebert's savage review, the laws of chance suggest that something should have gone right.
Wow.
Not here.
Oh my god. As if someone... Oh, mate. I wouldn't even know what to say if I read something like that and I'd made something... Oh.
Seriously, if you take only 2 things away from this video,
Wow.
please let the second one be to never, ever watch The Last Airbender.
Jesus.
Not ironically, not
No, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to.
Even if you actually just want to be angry and let the hate flow through you. There is simply too much to hate in this movie. None of it in a fun way. You will overdose and be permanently scarred by the experience. This film taints souls. I don't even want to...
It's just worse than Evolution. I never thought I would ever watch a video where someone says, right, Dragon Ball Evolution's bad, but here's something worse.
Keep
like,
riffing on how bad it is, because I'm worried I might convince some of you to check it out through reverse psychology.
Yeah,
but I can't stop, because it actually, no exaggeration, killed a large part of my innocence. Do not make the same mistake I did.
I think what's happening here is, though, that right, I'm going to try and... Jeff is me with Dragon Ball Evolution. He was a huge fan of Avatar and watched it and went, damn, you've killed like something I loved. So, I don't know. If I do watch it, though, I will let you know.
Stay away from The Last Airbender. Anyway, that's the list. Here's the whole thing from top to bottom.
Right, so we had Speed Racer good, Alita crying, Freeman cool, Death Note. I was very happy about that. I was just like, I'm happy about that. Astro Boy, I want to check out cool. G-Saviour, Cowboy Bebop. Then Guyver, and I don't agree with that being so low. Yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah, and then... Alright, cool.
Arranged into convenient watchability tiers in case you want to subject yourself to what I just went through.
Yeah.
Well, I say that to be funny, but honestly, watching everything for this ranking, I was pleasantly surprised about as often as I was shocked and disgusted. Maybe that's partially an effect of reverse hype poisoning, but as you can see, I found more than half of these things to be worth watching for at least
so it wasn't a
some
complete hate-filled video.
reasons. And a quarter of them are genuinely really good, without The Last Airbender throwing off the curve.
Yeah, I was expecting this to be like a big hate thing. Oh, we got video game stuff going on here.
Video game movies are probably worse on average, though I'll be straight with you, this video would have to get at least 1 million views for me to even consider ranking all 40 plus of those.
Do it. Link is in the description.
To find out for sure. I do think the average for Hollywood anime projects will improve with time, though. Sure, signs aren't looking good for Netflix's new Avatar thing, with both original creators having walked off the project again, but Eiichiro Oda's full-throated endorsement of their upcoming One Piece series is giving a lot of fans hope. The new live-action Gundam movie...
What? I didn't know this was happening.
Couldn't possibly be in better hands than the same production company that gave us Pacific Rim, and...
Oh, cool. That's cool. I really liked Pacific Rim.
The Duffer Brothers' new take on Death Note will probably, at the very least, be more of a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, it's a series, isn't it, though? I want part 2 of the movie. It looks like they are drifting away from the movie.
Than Adam Wingard's. Or maybe all of those will be terrible. Either way, I'm just glad that I could finish this before any more of them came out. I'm Jeff Thu, professional guy who's too tired to finish this sign-off. Good night.
All right, cool. That was interesting. Interesting look. But I'm sorry. I'm still on that. Ghost in the Shell was a good movie. It was a good movie. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't like the most peak kind of thing you could watch, but I really enjoyed it. So I disagree with that being there. I don't know where I'd place it. I mean, I would have to watch all of them and do his thing, but whatever. It's all cool. But, yeah. That was fun to watch. And it's interesting. I'm going to have to watch the Avatar movie for it to be worse than... Just to see how it's worse than Evolution. But, yeah. Check out my Etsy shop. Links in the description. You can purchase t-shirts and hoodies that I've designed there. And thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link in the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask for the challenge. Greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click the like, subscribe already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time. Bye.